to me, the chicken shake thing is kind of like an all-in mentality. Probably your mind knowing that you probably could have just ate a different 1,000-calorie meal, but fuck it, I'm doing this because this is a harder option.
Yep.
I'm more interested in some of the more finer things through the competing and programming and some of the other things. But I want to go through some of the questions that you seem to be asked a lot. Most of them I can probably answer myself. Some of them I'm going to answer, and then I'm going to let you kind of say yay or nay, right? So, I mean, the first one will be, you know, I thought I was going to be able to do this without laughing, but I can't do it. You know, the recipe for the chicken shake thing, right? So just, what's the recipe for the chicken shake?
Yeah, so ingredients, chicken breast, spinach, water. For your fats, you can do olive oil, almonds, and for my carbs, I've done protein or potatoes or rice.
How does the rice mix, by the way? That's not going to mix.
Yeah, terrible. I just figured out how many macros I need per day, and then I broke that down into 8 shakes because I was drinking 8 shakes per day. It's pretty, I mean.
Yeah. Well, I think what gets missed there is people get too wrapped up in, I know why you're doing it, right? You're doing it for the calories. And when you're close to 400 pounds, you know, that's a lot of calories.
Yep.
I don't think people comprehend. You know, that's a lot of calories. You can only eat so much. Now the fact that you didn't have other real meals in there is kind of weird to me, but whatever. You know, you just kind of get used to it. First off, they're nasty, right? You know they're nasty.
Yeah.
So 8 times a day, or whatever that is, you're drinking this nasty shit.
Mm-hmm.
All for one reason, you know, to be the best power lifter that you can be.
Yep.
So I think when they look at the chicken shakes, they're forgetting what the reason was.
Yes.
Like, oh, chicken shakes to gain weight. I need to gain weight, they'll drink one chicken shake and stop. Right? I mean, that's for a purpose, you know, to fuel your body so you can become the best power lifter you can become. And it was done over a period of years. I'm sure there's breaks when you let your body weight fall, but over a period of years. And then when you speak about, one of the things I like getting into with a podcast are people that go all in, you know, to something and really know what that means.
Yep.
Right. To me, the chicken shake thing is kind of like an all-in mentality. Right. So a lot of it's probably your mind knowing that you probably could have just ate a different 1,000-calorie meal, but fuck it, I'm doing this because this is a harder option.
Yep.
And would that be correct?
100%.
Okay. The other one I want to hit real quick, get off of the table, is, you know, why not go multiply, right? So, and again, I'll answer this. I hate to do this for people, right? But I'm going to answer this one because I know if I were you, how weird it would be to answer the question, right? It's because you're trying to toe a line, right, between this group and all this other kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Where, okay, you came up through, first off, there's the drug-free thing that plays into that. You know, it's not a lot of people in non-drug tested federations, I'm not saying that all of them are taking drugs, so that would be false, are drug-free. You know, so there's that. And then with that, no matter what anybody thinks or doesn't think, I've seen people do amazing things drug-free. You know, that's a badge that you can wear with pride. You know, so then all of a sudden you jump over, there's going to be an assumption that's going to be made. Like, okay, now he's taking stuff. Mm-hmm. Or, oh, you know what? He didn't get that much stronger. He must have been taking stuff the whole time. Right? There's all these things that's just that side, right?
Yep.
Now, the other side is, and this is one of the things I don't think that you'll talk about in detail. And the IPF's changed too, so we'll talk about that. When you leave the IPF to compete for another federation, there's rules first off that won't allow you to compete back in the IPF again, right? Now I don't know how long those rules last. Is it what's it specified as? Is it a year, 3?
I don't know anymore, and it's.
Well, I know before this shit in the last couple of years.
I think it was at least a year.
It was usually a year. I thought it was like 1 to 3 years, right? So now if you spent your whole life and your whole career chasing world titles, you know, that becomes part of that too. Now you're going to jump over here That's a big assumption that you're going to think, oh, yes, I'm going to like this. And I'm going to like this so much that I'm never going to want to go back. And then when you go back, you're going to have a big painted X on your back, right? So
Yep.
you really can't go back. So it's like a divorce.
Yep.
From something that you may not really like all that much, but it's what you know best, and it's what you've been chasing for a decade. So my flip back to that would be for all the multiply guys that have always been multiply. Are you willing to take the decade that you've had competing in multiply, jump to another federation, knowing 100% full well you can never go back and lift multiply again? Now follow me. We're talking federations, but we're also talking gear. Like, where else is there really single ply gear competitively outside of the IPF?
Yeah.
I can name one federation, but competitively it's a whole different game. So now you're just kissing your whole discipline. See ya. That's a big one,
Yep.
right? So that doesn't get talked about, very much. And I'll piggyback off that because I do follow the stuff more than people think. Now you have the situation that the IPF has with the USAPL, right? And whatever the new federation is that feeds into the IPF, which I believe is all based upon drug testing, right? At the lower levels.
Yep.
Which I don't know if I necessarily disagree with that, because I'll let you talk about that real quick, because that's more. So why was the USAPL drug testing at levels under? Because here's the crazy thing that people don't understand, then I'll let you run with it because I'm talking way too much, and I usually don't, but most people aren't going to talk about this, and I'm going to tell you why. If they didn't drug test, except only the international lifters, they'd be compliant. But because they do, they're not compliant.
Correct.
So why do they not just say, screw it, let's just test the international guys?
Yep. So the US APL's, foundational grassroots morals is to have equal platform for lifters at all levels, from the person doing their first meet locally to the guy going internationally. And to abide by that, they need to have drug testing at the lowest levels. They need to drug test the local meets where you got people competing for the first time, and they have to drug test people at the very top. Because of the WADA rule changes and some stuff from the IPF, financially they're not able to do that and hand over all the drug testing to a party they need all the drug tests to be WADA compliant. Financially they can't do that because it's so expensive for the WADA test. So I don't know if that answers your question.
No, that's what. Yes, it does, and that's kind of what I thought. Because let's say, I accidentally on my way up competed in, this was before USAPL, an ADFPA meet, and I didn't know it. It was with a bunch of other guys, and so I ended up guest lifting when I got, because I was not drug free, right? I'm like, I can't do this. Like, this is fucked up. They just do a polygraph, just put a tack in your shoe. I'm like, I ain't gonna put a tack in my shoe and stuff. I talked to the meet director and said, look, man, I don't want to be, just let me lift, judge me, whatever, but just put me as a guest lifter or something like that. I don't want to, take this away from anything. But my point was, even with that just being a polygraph, which isn't great, right? It's enough to deter.
Yeah.
It's me, right? It was enough to be able to say, you know what, I'm not going to do this. Morally, I wasn't going to do it anyhow. But just to be immediately told, here's what this is. And it was a small, stupid, I didn't even know what federation it was. It was that small of a meet.
Yeah.
That I don't think that's a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
Because especially today, where kids will train for, I've heard stories of kids will train for like a month or two and then start trend because they just think it's part of the, you know what I'm saying? They think it's part of the process. Like, oh, you train, you start to get serious, you want to bodybuild, powerlift, whatever it is, you need to take drugs. Then they do. Where if they're USAPL at the time, who knows now, right, was the biggest federation, which anybody who doesn't believe that, there's this really cool site called openpowerlifting.org and you can filter by number of members. Sometimes this amazes me, right? I know you're an engineer and you understand Excel and stuff like that. This is completely boggling to me. Like, oh, I don't know if this federation's growing or not. You're like,